Hotspot Shield service makes your internet browsing safer, more secure, and fully private. Click now to learn more. This, my friends, is the next gaming peripheral that you need. I think need is a pretty strong word, especially considering the fact that it costs over $100. So if that scares you off, then now's the time to go. But this is my unboxing and overview of the Stinky Footboard. The name, it stinks, but the product itself actually is outstanding. All right, so let's see what's inside the box. I've been informed I have 80s salesman hair, but I actually kind of like it. So maybe I'll stick with this look. Let me know in the comments if you think that I should stick with this or just get a haircut, you hippie. That's fine too. So once we open it up, we find the Stinky Footboard, which is a 4-button foot pedal. So this differs from the more traditional foot pedals in that it has 4 buttons as opposed to a single button. We also find some springs that are color-coded. They have different tensions, so the blue one is actually the lightest one, with the red one and the green one being the middle, and then the hardest one non-respectively, because I said them in the wrong order. Also inside, we're going to find a detachable USB cable. This is actually quite important for a product like this, more on that in a moment, that plugs into the bottom of the unit, and last but not least, the Allen key that will allow us to swap out these springs should we so desire. So let's talk construction, guys. If this is something that you're expected to put your foot on or basically stomp on, it's gonna have to be well built. Now, I'm informed that the one that I was jumping on at PAX had actually been run over by a car and was still functioning, so how do they achieve that? Well, it's got a T6 aluminum top plate, it has a stainless steel center pivot bearing, and a steel internal brace. So the plastic that you're seeing here isn't all that there is to it. It uses a custom PCB on the bottom, and even down to things like the switches that they're using at all 4 corners. I hope I can show you guys this, get you an angle on it. There you go. Oh yeah, that's Cherry MX Blue. So you're gonna get a 50 million actuation cycle out of each direction on the Stinky Footboard. Another durability feature we find on the bottom is that detachable cord I talked about before. This is important for a couple of reasons. Number one is this thing lives under your desk, so the odds of this cord getting destroyed are much higher than something else. Number two is because it lives under your desk and we don't know exactly where your PC might be, being able to replace the standard length cable with something that's longer or shorter might help it fit in better with your cable management strategy. Now, they don't rely just on the detachable cable to save it in the event of, a cat or a foot accidentally catching on it, and there's actually a little cable routing C shape here that will keep it from putting tension on the connector at a weird, awkward angle no matter what you do to the wire. Also on the bottom, we find the adjustable springs. So we found those tension springs inside the box. You actually get 10 springs total, which was a little odd to me because I would have thought they would just include 4 of each. But you can see the stock loadout has blue springs on the sides. So remember, those are slightly lighter tension, and green springs on the ends. So this can be adjusted to your heart's content. The only configuration you can't have is 4 of the heaviest springs, the red ones. So it looks like the way they expect you to use it is heavier ones in the front and back because you're gonna have more leverage when you're pressing down, and then lighter springs on the sides. So this adjustability is great because you might want to use it a number of different ways, whether it's putting your foot on it this way, putting your foot on it this way, leaning to the sides that way. You want to be able to adjust it to whatever suits you best. Now, what is the functionality of this thing exactly? Well, it's different from other foot pedals in that there's 4 different ways you can go with the buttons. So this just gives you more functionality than just binding something to push to talk or binding something to close all your windows when someone opens up the door behind you, or whatever else you might have bound to a foot pedal. No, this is more for if you need additional modifiers or additional hotkeys. So here's a great example is people will say, well, okay, I've already got 6 buttons or 12 buttons or 16 buttons on the side of my mouse. Why do I need another 4 buttons? And the answer is because however many buttons you might have accessible to your thumb, you still only have 1 thumb. So this is another function that you can enable at the same time as your thumb. So the ways that I see it being most useful are for things where your finger that would otherwise be executing that action could be tied up. So if I'm strafing to the right and I need to reload, and I don't necessarily want to stop strafing to the right, if I bind my reload here, boom, I can reload without ever taking a break, without ever stopping moving. Another great example, push to talk. If I don't want to hold down my left thumb, which is what I used to bind it to, is left thumb. If I don't want to hold that down while I'm talking to my teammates, and I don't believe in using voice detection because, who knows what I might be saying to the people around me that I don't want all my gaming buddies hearing, or who knows who might walk into my room and be inappropriate, then what I can do is I can just bind it here. So I can just step and do that and not have it interrupt my gameplay even when I'm speaking. And there's endless opportunities for bindings like this that are different than what you would otherwise have access to. So for example, it supports 4 modifier keys now, so that's Control, Alt, Shift, and the Windows key, giving you up to 16 functions down here, and you can do all kinds of crazy stuff, like you could bind diagonal movement is another thing that it does now, or you could bind different potions or different spells instead of using, I have small hands, so reaching up to the number keys for my tool belt actually isn't always necessarily that convenient. So having something like even 2 of these under my feet and having them bound to the first 8 slots there would be much more efficient than me taking my fingers off of the movement keys and then potentially not even finding my way back. So the functionality is all configurable within the driver, which they're constantly updating, and I think it's really cool not only for your typical gamer, but also for people with disabilities as well. So they have one testimonial on their site that I think is really cool. So the guy has it bound to WASD for his feet, and then he doesn't have a left arm, so he uses his right hand, and then I guess you can bind all those, fancy pants extra mouse buttons you have to all the other things you need to do and enjoy a gaming experience that you otherwise couldn't if you were limited to only being able to control your games with your hands. So I think that's really cool. It's not cheap. It's $120. They asked me to mention that it's available at Future Shop and Best Buy, although I should also probably mention that my affiliate link is under the video in the description, so if you want to help us out, then you can order there as well. If you're interested in it, if you're not interested in it, I think I have a pretty good idea what your objection's going to be. It's really expensive. It's over $100 for what is effectively 4 buttons. So if you were to just evaluate the cost of your hardware like per button with a keyboard, you could spend over $100 on a mechanical keyboard and get over 100 buttons. But it's not necessarily that simple. They're a startup company. They have to have money to repay whatever loans they've incurred up till now. They have to have money to reinvest and make new products, especially if you want to see maybe a lower cost version in the future, or maybe like a tongue controller so that you can use your mouth to issue additional commands. That could be very cool. The more ways we have to interface with our computer, the better. And I personally am willing to help them out with that. Now, think about it. I was even talking about a USB butt plug not that long ago. Imagine that as a control device. Clench for push to talk, like clench to prone. Every time someone jumps out from a corner and you get all tense, you just automatically prone. That's amazing. That's great functionality. That is $1 million idea right there. Anyway, press like if you liked the video, press dislike if you disliked the video, or if you felt very strongly about that inappropriate final comment there. Leave a comment on the video letting me know what you think of the Stinky Footboard. What would you guys be willing to pay if you had to wait a year or something like that for a lower cost alternative, or would you be willing to pony up for this one right now? And as always, don't forget to subscribe to Linus Tech Tips for more unboxings, reviews, and other computer videos.